Guys, I'm calling on you majors, lieutenant colonels, colonels, major generals, boys. It's time to tell this general sitting at the table, chewing gum, falling asleep on his feet, tell him everything, the whole chain.
It started, the armed forces are breaking through. The Russian army is literally turning into a rag. Our paratroopers are ready. Syrsky designed this offensive plan so that Russian generals still can't figure out exactly where the crushing blow will come from. The heart of the front line is pulsing. Near Zaporizhzhia, it's a fierce meat grinder. The occupiers no longer know who to blame for the failures. In the Oleksandrivka direction, the enemy got a taste of birch porridge and instantly refused to move forward. They'll have to flee along with the soldiers, leaving their equipment behind. Donbas has become stuck in Putin's throat, and the situation at the front has never been so dynamic. The Ukrainian counteroffensive continues to gain momentum. What surprise awaits the world's second army literally just around the corner? More on this next. Watch until the end. Greetings, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Darina Hutskalo with the latest events. The Russian army has turned up the alarm to full volume. Failures at the front, one after another. The new tactics of the armed forces proved to be victorious. The occupiers are expecting a landing. You won't believe where. The enemy predicts that if this happens, they are doomed.
Based on the operational situation, we can assume that the enemy is preparing conditions for an easy landing on the shore. Why exactly in the area of the Kinburn Spit? Because of the geographical features. The spit is located close to Ochakiv, from where the enemy can primarily carry out a landing from the sea.
And this latest whining from the Russians looks more and more like an attempt to justify their fears of an approaching total defeat in this direction. Supposedly, it's easy to support units from Ochakiv with drones that will cover the offensive forces in the area. And if you add to this the raids and strikes by sea drones, then by their logic, the situation for them becomes completely hopeless.
And now it's extremely important that everyone gets busy preparing for combat work, rather than beautiful reports to the capital for the first half of the year.
And it seems there really are reasons for concern. Putin's soldiers have tucked their tails as hard as they can. After crushing strikes by Ukrainian drones, the occupiers have already begun to flee from the Kinburn Spit. Our forces have disrupted the enemy's logistics so much that holding positions has become simply impossible. Colonel Denis Novikov, commander of the Odessa Operational Tactical Group, spoke about this in an interview with Channel 24.
Now, together with the forces and means of senior commanders from the South Group, we have practically cut off the occupiers' logistics on the Spit.
According to the defender, the Russian army has effectively found itself on the brink of catastrophe. Logistics are broken, supplies are regularly disrupted, and any movement of the occupiers immediately falls under the tight fire control of the armed forces. And this, it seems, is only the beginning. Partisans from the Atesh movement previously reported that Russian units have begun a partial withdrawal from the northern and western parts of the Kinburn Spit, which in itself already looks like a very alarming signal for the occupiers. The front is slipping from the occupiers' hands. The AFU is actively counter-attacking the enemy along the entire line. It is also heating up now in the Zaporizhzhia direction. There, for the enemy, Ukrainian land has literally turned into a red-hot frying pan.
On a section of the front near Huliapol, soldiers of the 412th Nemesis Unmanned Systems Brigade struck up to 10 infantry fighting vehicles and 1 enemy tank.
The systematic destruction of armored vehicles is effectively breaking the enemy's offensive scenario. Where columns of equipment entered until recently, now more and more often, it is unsupported infantry being thrown into assaults essentially for survival. The loss of armor doesn't just slow the pace of attacks, it forces the enemy to act in emergency mode.
In Vasilivka, they blew up the bridge so the Ukrainians couldn't pass. Equipment has piled up there. Their plan is to cut off Crimea.
However, while even the Z-Patriots are slowly taking off their rose-colored glasses, the official authorities still stubbornly try to mask AFU successes with fictional victories in the Donbas. Putin's generals, without blushing, speak about how the so-called second army in the world continues offensive operations in the Donetsk region, where Kostiantynivka and Lyman remain the main targets. These very cities are vital elements of the Ukrainian fortress belt.
Ukrainian units in this area are killing Russian soldiers, destroying equipment, and holding back significantly superior enemy forces.
Moreover, our defenders' positions stand firm in the Oleksandrivka direction at the junction of the Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhzhia regions. The AFU is holding the front, preventing the enemy from gaining a foothold or expanding their zone of influence. Alexander Syrsky confirmed the success of our troops.
Paratroopers are conducting active defensive operations and doing everything to ensure the enemy cannot advance or gain a foothold. Our priorities remain unchanged. Liberation of Ukrainian territory from the Russian occupiers. Preserving the lives of our warriors. I thank every service member for their resilience and courage.
As we see, reality for the enemy is harsher than ever before, and as proof, more whining from the adversary. The Russians are in hysterics over the Hornet drone's performance, effectively admitting that the situation for them is rapidly changing, for the worse. Panic can be heard in their own assessments. These models are already turning into more than just software, but into ready-made package solutions for creating new drones and modernizing existing systems.
To put it simply, a UAV spotted an air defense position. It got hit, and the next drone will already know where the SAM system, or mobile fire group, is.
Supposedly, with such a pace of development in Ukrainian drone technology across all sectors of the front, only ashes might remain of them.
Instead of reports about explosions and debris, Russian war correspondents have started inventing a new euphemism, complication of the situation. That is what they are now calling the serious logistical crisis in Crimea.
The Kremlin was not prepared for this. Crimea is turning into an island. Ukrainian strikes have triggered a chain effect. The start of a lightning-fast deoccupation of the territory. The peninsula is burning and the Russians are whining, now without power, water, gasoline, or food. The time for retribution, it seems, has come. Logistics routes are being cut right before the eyes of the Gauleiters. And instead of pretty reports, Putin is being brought alarming news about the approaching end. The tourist season is cancelled. Moreover, Russians are racing to leave the peninsula. Ultimately, let's see what Crimea looks like now and whether such actions can be considered the beginning of the return home of what the Russian Federation brazenly took from us.
In this video, middle strike units of the Special Operations Forces strike a railway bridge over the North Crimean Canal near occupied Rozdolne. The occupiers' strategic logistical artery, which they used to move weapons and equipment to Crimea, was completely destroyed by 2 strikes. On the night of June 22nd, one of the spans collapsed. On the night of June 23rd, they hit repair equipment along with the remains of the bridge.
Sorry, but we have an official urgent update here. The railway bridge over the North Crimean Canal in Crimea no longer exists. Sof! The first one is gone.
This is the first completely destroyed bridge, but not the first one damaged. The Ukrainian military has been actively striking crossings and logistical routes for several weeks now. Enemy oil depots and military facilities across the entire peninsula were also burning. This initially caused a fuel crisis.
Guys, so many people have been writing to me for several days now. Bring some gas. 20 liters, 40 liters. No chance. 0 chance.
Then food shortages began.
Look, flour. Just 1 bag is allowed. Great, you're only permitted to take a single bag of flour. Well, at least you're able to take 3 whole packs of pasta, which is something.
And on Monday, virtually everything on the peninsula came to a standstill.
This time, the situation was just a shock for us.
Gasoline in Sevastopol on June 22nd and 23rd was only for emergency vehicles. Restrictions were introduced on the operation of public transport, shops, and restaurants. All sports competitions were cancelled on the peninsula and children's camps ceased operations.
They stopped the operation of children's camps in the territory of temporarily occupied Crimea, including their so-called symbol, as they are currently trying to make it Artek. This also speaks to the criticality of the situation that exists in the territory of temporarily occupied Crimea.
And in Yalta, they announced that they would clean less often and stop all construction work. Ultimately, it's impossible to work fully because there's no electricity either.
In Crimea, I'm walking because there's no gas. Somewhere downtown, because there's no power at home to charge my gadgets. And you know what's bothering me? Why the hell did I?
Since yesterday morning, there has been no electricity in Yevpatoria, Saki, Yanikapu, Jankoy, Simferopol, Alushta, and dozens of other settlements. Experts say Crimea's power grid is now completely dependent on Russia's. And if infrastructure related to the Crimean bridge is damaged, the problems could be even more serious. This isolation has already affected the mood of local pro-Russian residents.
when they say, we don't want Russia or Ukraine anymore, just let Crimea be Crimean. Well, that's the kind of position they have now. This is from people who, for example, supported Russia, but now they don't want Russia.
At the same time, the pro-Ukrainian population says they're ready to endure it as long as Crimea is finally liberated.
They say that, we now feel like we are in a sort of situation, semi-encirclement, but now you must impose a total blockade.
Currently, the Ukrainian military is doing everything to isolate the occupiers and prevent them from using Crimea as a military bridgehead. Last night, explosions were heard again on the peninsula, specifically in Simferopol, Kerch, Feodosia, and Fardiska. The occupation governor of Sevastopol, Mikhail Razvozhayev, reported that there is no power in the city at all. Ola Chetailo, Fakti ACTV, United News.
At this very moment, the front is moving at Ukraine's pace. The heart of the front line pulses thanks to the armed forces of Ukraine. Ukrainian units aren't just holding positions, they're literally tearing through the battle line, where the enemy was still trying to push yesterday. Drones, long-range artillery, and high-precision systems allow us to see more, strike further, and work faster. American, French, and Danish steel beasts are helping to break the enemy's logistics literally on live air. Don't miss how our forces are confidently seizing the initiative in several areas at once, coming up in just a moment.
16 tons of armor, rockets, and complex electronics are flying at full speed across the Ukrainian wilderness. A frontline legend hidden from journalists for a long time is heading to a firing position.
HIMARS is probably the only multiple launch rocket system whose tractor vehicle can actually travel at a speed of more than 80 kilometers per hour.
It's speed that increases the survival chances of the rocket crews whose faces remain covered for security reasons. Has the machine lost its relevance?
No. The machine strikes with precision. There's no such thing as overshooting the target, unlike with standard MLRS or tube artillery.
The target is an enemy howitzer dozens of kilometers away from the launcher.
Launch!
A bird belonging to Ukrainian paratroopers is already circling above it.
This gun was actually found
by our colleagues, but we've already flown out specifically to adjust the fire on it.
The HIMARS launcher has a full pod of 6 rockets, but maybe one will be enough.
Speed, maneuverability, long range, high-tech, what else can be said about the legendary HIMARS? The Russians claim they found an antidote against its high-precision missiles, but it's not true. Here we see a completely different picture. The missiles are hitting Russian targets accurately.
To knock high-precision munitions, of course, the enemy uses 2 powerful electronic warfare units. The first jams the satellite signal, the second, the missile's own onboard GPS system. However, for HIMARS, a window of opportunity can always be found. So the fate of the Russian howitzer has already been decided by the onboard computer. How many launches have you done? No need for an exact number, but roughly, is it 10 or 50 or 30? Well,
no, it's only recently been, in our service. Well, it's already fired about 10 launches.
What's the effectiveness?
100%.
Proof of the HIMARS effectiveness is the fact that the 148th Air Assault Brigade continues to receive new American units. This fresh one came off the assembly line in 2025.
It's the newest one in service with the armed forces of Ukraine.
The so-called US and NATO priority supply system is working, so the paratroopers have what they need to go on the offensive in this direction.
The brigade has been working in the Oleksandrivka direction for 5 months now. Active assault operations are underway under the Air Assault Forces grouping, and the 148th Separate Artillery Brigade provides support for these troops, as we are an elite artillery unit of the Defense Forces of Ukraine.
They fired and now they must quickly camouflage.
Jamming actually affects the missile, and there can be deviations of a little over 10 meters. But still, that's what the countermeasure is for. We can fire without GPS. Perfect.
After hiding the vehicle in a shelter, the paratroopers learned the target was hit with a single shot.
Boom. Take that, take that.
The Russian gun will no longer terrorize our troops, intelligence confirms.
They did a great job. They hit the target. Well, as a result, the gun is damaged, meaning it's no longer combat ready.
The guys switched to a brand new HIMARS from an old grad, but it also remains in service. This is a captured unit seized in the Kharkiv region. It's fighting against its former masters. The task is to hit the enemy's ammunition depot. In the sky, an enemy Lancet. The cover group is on standby.
The rocket artillerymen are forced to constantly increase the distance to the line of contact. as they adapt to ongoing changes and constantly search for new firing positions because they themselves are targets for the enemy.
There is no missile shortage. In a few minutes, 20 missiles hit the depot. They're still in the air, and the artillerymen are already long gone. And on the ground following the grad volley, the paratroopers went on the assault.
I really want to hope that we're pushing back, but we're definitely not losing ground. In this direction, Rubicon is operating, and because of that, it's a bit difficult to work here. I mean, they're closer than 15 kilometers. Even, well, cars can't get close because all the vehicles are under fire. It's hard to fight them. The direction is very difficult.
Senior battery officer with the call sign Alex sees the results of brutal attacks by Rubicon operators almost every day. The Grad, which enemy infantry fears so much, is practically powerless against those who take the lives of Alex's comrades with their drones. But the situation is not hopeless. The 148th Brigade has the means to reach Rubicon. This is the so-called Danish Caesar. The small country of Denmark gave Ukraine practically its entire stock of such self-propelled units. And all of them are in service with the 148th Air Assault Brigade. Now, in the Oleksandrivka direction, these guns play one of the key roles. They not only hold back the enemy, but also support the Ukrainian offensive. They work quickly, constantly changing their positions. How many shells were there?
4.
Is that how you usually work, in 4s, right?
No, sometimes more, 10 or 15. Fire.
Wherever they appear, enemy FPV operators have to pull back.
Glory to Ukraine. Primarily, we are now suppressing UAV launch points. Some partial offensive actions are underway, and the guys basically are succeeding in everything. That is, the FPV activity is decreasing. Glory to Ukraine.
A few days ago, an enemy FPV crew was detected. It was confirmed a Russian serviceman came out carrying a drone. An FPV was taking off, and we launched a fire strike there. With 2 guns, there was an ammo detonation, so the hit was confirmed, and accordingly, no one took off from there again.
Sometimes the second shell hits right on target.
The Russians don't have long-range guns here. Their maximum range is about 20 kilometers. The Caesars have almost twice that, 35 and even 40. So the enemy tries to get them with drones.
UAV points are the main thing, the ones that cause us the most harm. We only fire 1 or 2 shots, and they already start working on us.
All the birds fly out to hunt and look for this target because, well, it's a high-value target for them.
This howitzer has been hit multiple times. There are traces of a lancet hit on the armored glass. Therefore, besides the crew, there are drone hunters at the position. You can't do without cover.
There have been cases. FPVs, Molnias, sometimes Lancets, the guys destroy them there. Well, it's different for everyone. We are focused almost 100% on destroying enemy UAVs.
Today, they didn't have to fend off an air attack. They managed to leave the position before the enemy birds arrived. A surprise for the occupiers. In this division, all the Danish Caesars are operational. The enemy hasn't managed to hunt down a single one.
Bit by bit, we are pushing the enemy out of our land.
The success of a local, barely visible on the map, but very important. Low offensive by Ukrainian paratroopers depends on every shot now.
Roger that on the last 360. Glory to Ukraine.
Andriy Tsaplienko, Ilya Shinkarenko, Serhiy Perfilov, TSN Week, 1+1. Marathon, United News.
Cold precision and absolute concentration. Sniper scouts are ruthlessly destroying occupiers in the heart of the front line. Unique footage of their work is being shown for the first time. The Russians are swarming ours with drones, but instead they face fierce revenge from our side. There are no safe zones left for the enemy anymore. How Ukrainian defenders managed to snatch victory right from the clutches of the Russian army. Let's watch.
A female sniper with the call sign Ruta doesn't show her face, because the enemy organizes a real hunt for professionals of this level. However, the occupiers have never been able to uncover the positions where Ruta and her group worked.
It's quite a difficult job that requires constant training and constant improvement. It's actually quite complex in itself, and honestly, it's also really quite creative.
They have to work in the most extreme conditions. The shortest distance they let the enemy approach was only 5 meters, and the maximum distance record is almost 4 kilometers.
Sniping is just one of my tasks. It's one of my tools for performing my duties. That is, I can work as a sniper for engagement, or I can do mining. If there's a need to pass through unnoticed, again using sniper skills to mine something covertly for the enemy and then withdraw.
Maximum versatility? The composition of the combat group constantly changes and adapts to the tasks. But basically, there must be at least 4 people in the team.
That's a marksman or a sniper. He carries a rifle and works with high precision on the required targets. The machine gunner is the main firepower, also an engineer. He's also a flamethrower and grenade launcher operator. Mainly, we take mines with us to protect our positions.
Cover me. Go ahead.
The 4th and final person in this group is a medic. It's preferable that we always have a medic with us, because with such a density of drones, it's practically impossible to evacuate very quickly.
For their work, they have a unique arsenal of weaponry. This includes the AK-12, carbines, firearms, and machine guns. All of this helps to destroy the enemy even more effectively.
The machine gun provides cover. It's the main firepower of our unit. It has a very powerful caliber, also 7.62 by 51, which allows us to work in tree lines without worrying that ricochets will significantly alter the bullet's flight path. It also shoots through many obstacles. And roughly speaking, the enemy is always shaken when our machine gun sounds. Almost everyone goes silent.
And of course, what would we do without a sniper rifle?
I work specifically with the 308 caliber for medium distances.
What distances do you cover with it?
About 300 to 500 meters.
But for effective work, all this weaponry and skills must be clearly combined.
We try to do everything more carefully and safely, thinking more ahead, as well as the entry, approach, the work itself, and camouflage. It's being done more seriously. Now retreat on command. Stand further over there. Retreat. Retreat. Retreat, retreat. Come on, come on. We think through such options so that the enemy cannot guess where we might be located.
And of course, our skilled sniper scouts always have one main target, the one they dream of hitting more than any other, above all else.
Putin, probably.
Anastasia Tereshchuk, We Are Ukraine United News Marathon.
And what do you think about the latest events? Write your opinion in the comments, like the video, and stay informed about the main things. More to come. See you later.